Gospel and Homily for the 24th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year B. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus and his disciples left for the villages around Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he put this question to his disciples: "Who do people say I am?" And they told him, "John the Baptist," they said, "others Elijah, others again one of the prophets." "But you," he asked, "who do you say I am?" Peter spoke up and said to him, "You are the Christ." And he gave them strict orders not to tell anyone about him. And he began to teach them that the Son of Man was destined to suffer grievously, to be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, to be put to death, and after 3 days to rise again. Then he said all this quite openly. Then, taking him aside, Peter started to remonstrate with him. But turning and seeing his disciples, he rebuked Peter, and he said to him, "Get behind me, Satan, because the way you think is not God's way, but man's." And he called the people and his disciples to him and said, "If anyone wants to be a follower of mine, let him renounce himself and take up his cross and follow me. For anyone who wants to save his life will lose it, but anyone who loses his life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it." The Gospel of the Lord. It is said about the famous artist Michelangelo that when at work he wore over his forehead, fastened to his cap, a lighted candle, so that no shadow of himself might fall upon the marble or the canvas as he worked. St. James today talks about good works. We need to take extra care that no shadow of ourselves, our personal ambitions, our self-seeking, falls upon any good work we do. From today's Gospel, we see where Peter had a lot to learn in this regard. He tries to turn our Lord away from the self-renunciation of the cross, and so Jesus compares him to Satan, the tempter. It was his Father's will that Jesus would atone for the sins of mankind by means of the cross, and so pave the way for us to enter life eternal. If Jesus had ditched the cross, as Peter strongly urged, our salvation would not have been achieved. The unique irony about Christianity is that in order for me to save my life, I must first lose it. Basically, this is at odds, of course, with my tainted human nature, which tends to exonerate myself, often at the expense of others. Saint Therese said that if we go through life without anyone noticing our good works or the good things we do, so much the better. In the Mass, we celebrate and become part of Christ's self-sacrifice on Calvary. Our closeness to our Lord will be in proportion to the amount of self-renunciation there is in our everyday lives. Jesus says, "Unless the wheat grain falls on the ground and dies, it remains a single grain." The less dying to self, the less progress we make in holiness. St. Paul cautions us not to model ourselves on the behavior of the world around us, which by and large sees self-renunciation as only fit for weaklings. However, dying to self doesn't mean becoming a doormat for everyone or being so naive that people routinely take us for a ride. Self-renunciation doesn't mean self-denunciation. You would gladly help anyone in need, but at the same time you encourage people to take responsibility for their own lives. We hear that the NHS is in trouble these days. That's the National Health Service. Well, I think we all could live healthier lives, and that includes myself, if we were less self-indulgent. It would free up many more beds in the hospital wards. Self-renunciation doesn't mean that you continually do things for people that they can well do for themselves if they put their minds to it. Yes, we should help each other with their crosses. Simon of Cyrene helped Jesus carry his, but he didn't take it from him. He didn't say, "Step aside, Jesus, I'll take the cross from now on." Oh no. Approached in the right spirit, the cross can actually be the making of a person, and often is. Self-renunciation is also seen when a person is bold enough to take a stand against trends in our society which are contrary to gospel values and to church teaching. By going along with these trends, or keeping quiet about them, self-renunciation goes out the window. There's no self-renunciation there. This renunciation laid out in the gospel must be our abiding Christian witness. Without it, Christianity, or our Christianity, would be a charade, and the surest way to make it redundant. But we take comfort from our Lord's own words. The person who loses his life for my sake will keep it for life eternal. Thank you all very much for listening now, and God bless you all.